Hello everybody, thank you so much for attending this webinar. Today's topic will be the T1 Experience User Experience. The areas that we're going to focus on this webinar today are productivity tools that include document attaching, Express NOA, client letters. We're going to go over pension splitting. We'll go over some self-employment forms and the basis on starting a T2125. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that. That's going to be saved more specifically for the self-employment specific webinar. But we're going to go over a little bit just so that everybody has a rough idea on what's going on with those returns and the forms for those returns. We're going to talk about T1 AFR. We're going to also talk about how to enter donations or medical expenses. And we're also going to go over RRSP deductions. To begin, we're going to go over adding documents and attachments to your returns. We can do so by selecting the documents hyperlink at the top of the screen here. And here you can find existing documents, or you can add new attachments to any tax return. If your client isn't using QuickBooks Online, a folder called ProTax displays. What you can do here is select upload to add an attachment to the return, and it'll show as a selectable link like you'll see right here. If you select in the actions column, you can rename or delete the attachment. And you can also select upload again if you'd like to add a new one. So once you've uploaded, you're going to see something very similar to this, where it's going to be a link, a clickable link that you can open to review or to view, and then it will be attached to the return. Let's move on to the Express Notice of Assessment, or ENOA for short. The Express Notice of Assessment is an official document and a secure CRA service that allows individuals and authorized representatives to view the Notice of Assessment in their software. In this case, it's ProTax. And it can be done immediately after the return has been received and processed by the CRA. There are a few requirements. So to be able to use the Express Notice of Assessment service, you must be a certified electronic filer with e-file credentials. You must be registered in the CRA's Represent a Client and have a valid Rep ID, Group ID, or business number. You must be authorized for online access with level 1 or higher authorization through the CRA, and you must have a valid T183 with Part E completed. So I'm going to run through now exactly how we get that done so that once you file the return, you're going to have access to that Express NOA. So first, we're going to navigate over here to Taxpayer Personal Information, which is the first section under the Info section of the return. We're going to scroll down, and we are going to select either N of A or Notice of Assessment and Refund. So I'm just going to select N of A for this situation. Then what we're going to do is go over to the T183, and we're going to make sure that Part E is completed. So right here, I have an error there, but that's okay, or a warning rather. So I need to select I would like my electronic filer to receive a one-time notice of assessment and reassessment electronically in their software and provide me with a copy. And there's a little disclaimer here explaining what you understand. So once that's done and both parts of that are completed, you can go over to the e-file menu and select View ENOA. I don't have one because I have not filed this return as it's a test return. But if you do select View ENOA, you will be able to see the ENOA that comes in after you have filed the return. If you need to send out a client letter or an engagement letter, ProTax gives you the tools to create, edit, and share client letters right from within ProTax to be able to put into your returns. So, to do so, just go into Tax Settings, go to the Letters tab, and from here, this is where you'll see all of your letters and client letters. You can view or customize existing letters, or you can create your own letters from scratch as well. You see a button here to add a new template. And if you'd like to personalize a specific letter, you can select Edit. So, with that being said, Let's go into a return. And once we are in the return, what we can do is search for the name of the letter. So T1 client letter. And these are all the ones that were made in our internal letters tab. So I'm going to hit add T1 client letter. And we'll be able to see that I have the client letter here. So these are the variables that are missing from this return. It's just that the information in the return itself is missing. Once that information is in there, this will be updated. And to actually change those variables, like I said earlier, you could just go to the letter and select edit. And here you can swap out variables or add some more or remove some. And these will take that information directly from the return and add it to the letter of the return that the letter is in. A great feature in ProTax that can help you save a lot of time is pension splitting. With linked returns, ProTax lets you optimize any eligible pension income. To do so, you're going to have to navigate to the T1032. There we go. I'm going to add that to the return. You want to make sure on the taxpayer's return you're selecting pensioner. And then to optimize, we have an optimizer button. So you would just click that. If I had the correct values in here, it would optimize it, but it optimizes it for your clients so that they both get the best return, or whichever one is most eligible to get a better return based on the values and the split that occurs. ProTax will do that automatically for you. With ProTax, you can use the CRA's Autofill My Return, or AFR for short, feature to import all of the applicable data that the CRA has on file for your client. To use AFR, of course, your client must authorize you as a representative. So if you are the representative and the preparer, you need to make sure that you have authorization through the CRA, and there's many ways you can do that through the CRA itself by filing an authorize a representative form. So there's a few different ways you can do that. So to actually get started and to use the AFR feature, you're going to open the file in ProTax, and you're going to select Return Actions, and you're going to select CRA Autofill My Return. Once there, you're going to get a pop-up that will tell you to visit the CRA's website. You're going to have the name and SIN number to double check that you're with the right client. So once you select visit the CRA's website, you're going to sign into the CRA's website with your established credentials that you already have to log into the CRA. You're going to confirm your client's social insurance number and hit next. And then what you're going to do is close the window after ProTax has made that connection. ProTax will display a preview page allowing you to select or clear data to import. Then select Import Selected, select Continue, and then open the Data Import Summary page so that you can view and review all of the data that was imported by CRA's AFR. Now, this is going to be more of a tip compared to everything else that I've already spoken about in this webinar, which for the most part, everything that I've already spoken about can be applicable to all, if not all, returns. And this can be as well, but it's not a mandatory thing. So this is the T1 review. The T1 review allows you to compare your current year's T1 to that of a prior year. So for example, if you were to have carried forward a 2022 return into 2023 in ProTax, you will be able to see your prior year values. This can save you so much time, especially if you're doing a lot of clients in a tax season. You don't have to go through records or previous data, bookkeeping, anything like that. You're able to just go into the T1 review worksheet and take a look at those values. So I'm going to do that now. We're going to go to the go-to search bar once we are in the return that we'd like to add the T1 review to. And I'm going to search for T1 review. And here it is right here. So I'm going to add that to the return. And here we are. So this is total income as an example. This is a brand new demonstration return. So I don't have those prior year values right now, but you can see how it would work. You have your values from this current year. You're going to have your values from the prior year. You're going to be able to physically see the change from one year to the next in a dollar amount and a percentage amount. So that can save you a lot of time when you're comparing values, if that's important to you. We also have our net income. We have our taxable income. We have our non-refundable credits. We have total payable. We have total credits. And any comments that you'd like to make. This is for your own work, for your own bookkeeping. This is not something that would get sent to the CRA with the return when it's filed. But as you can see from each section of the T1 review, you can see that change in dollar amount or change in a percentage amount. So again, if that's important to you, then you have access to that right away. And again, it just saves you a lot of time if making sure that you're keeping track of prior year values is important to you. You can safely and securely share returns with others in your firm within ProTax. Within ProTax, we can create a link that can only be opened by a member of your team, which means if you inadvertently sent the link to a friend or client, they just will not be able to open it, which makes it very secure. To do so, go to the return that you would like to share, select return actions, and then we're going to click share this return, and this pop-up is going to occur. It says you can share this return with anyone in your firm that has access to this client. So you can set up your client access in your firm settings in QuickBooks Online and specifically change the client access. And this link could only go to someone who also has access to that client. So if you were to write an email to a colleague and it went into the wrong hands, or you sent an email to the wrong person, they will not be able to open this link to this return whatsoever, making it very secure. If you're doing a T1 return for a client, you can also create a T3 return based on that T1. ProTax makes it easy for you simply by selecting the down arrow beside view return of the return you'd like to start and create a T3 for. You can select the down arrow and select start T3 return. And once that finishes up, a T3 return will be made for that client using that information from the T1. If your firm still uses Profile in any manner, or you'd like to be able to take a return from ProTax just to view in Profile, you can do so in ProTax. With an active subscription, what you can do is go into the return. So I'm going to go into my test return here. And you can select return actions and export return to profile. What this is going to do is it's going to take this file and make it into a profile file so that it can be opened in profile. So I'm going to hit export return to profile. And we can see in my downloads folder that I have a file that can be opened. You can take that file and move it to wherever your profile files open. And when you open it in profile, it will work with all of the information and all of the values that you've already filled out in ProTax. Let's go over a few worksheets in ProTax that you can use to enter information and values into for the return. Starting with RRSP deductions. Let's go ahead and search for RRSP PRPP. And right off the bat, we're going to see I have some contributions. So I'm going to add a new one. If I want to make a contribution, I will put the description and make sure that you are entering the correct contribution period. This is very important. So I'm going to put that one. And to enter the values. Great. Now what we're going to do is take a look at contributions made to spouses RRSPs. So if the contribution was made on behalf of a spouse, make sure you enter the amount in the rightmost column for each contribution that you've made. Now we're going to scroll down. We can see I have my RRSP contributions, and as well as the spouse RRSPs if I had any. I don't in this example. And I'm going to scroll down, and we're going to have our deduction limit. So make sure that you're entering this from your previous year's or your client's previous year's notice of assessment, and you'll be able to enter that right there. And the calculations for the most part on the rest of the form will be made for you, other than stuff such as repayments under the home buyer's plan and lifelong learning plan as well. However, if it's just a simple contribution, you can make that there and make sure that you enter the correct deduction limit. The next worksheet that I'd like to talk about in this section is for medical expenses. So to easily enter your medical expenses in ProTax, all you'll need to do is go to the Go To search bar, search for medical, go to medical, and here I am now where I can enter my medical expenses. So I'm just going to go ahead and just start filling out a claim. You can do this in this section for either yourself, the taxpayer, or your spouse. So I'm just going to put it myself because this is not a linked return. This is just one taxpayer return. And I'm going to start filling out this information. And there is also a drop down for limitations. So these are all the options that you have for those limitations. So whichever one is applicable, or you can simply select no. Perfect. So now I have entered my new claim, and I'm going to select yes to claiming medical expenses. If you have any premiums paid to private health service plans or any provincial specific things such as the Quebec Prescription Drug Insurance Plan or the Nova Scotia Seniors Pharmacare Program, you can enter those here. And if I scroll down, I can also add, for other dependents, I can add these medical expenses. Like I said, I don't have any dependents on this return, but if you do have any eligible dependents, they can be entered here with their claim, very similar to how we did it above. Next, let's go over the donations worksheet in ProTax. So similarly to the other two worksheets we just talked about, I'm going to go to the Go To search bar and search for donations. I'm going to go to donations. And here is where I can enter any donations. So I'm just going to, once again, just like the other one, make the same donation again, just to showcase how to fill it out. Okay, perfect. So I'm entering the name of the organization and the amount paid. And if there are any donations coming from like a T4, for example, you are able to claim it from your own slips, from your own and spouse's slips, or none, and you can transfer those slips over to your spouse. So you can do it like that. Here I have other gifts. I have a summary that's calculated here. Any donation carry forward that you'd like to do that were Canadian made and based donations, you can carry forward those. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the form. Just important to make sure that you're entering the amount paid and the name of the organization. You can work on employment expenses in ProTax as well. All you need to do is simply search for the T2200 in the Go To search bar. And once that's opened, you can have multiple for each client if they have multiple employment expenses. So I'm going to go ahead and hit details. So this is going to carry over all of the information from the info form or the info section of the return. And here is where we can talk about our different conditions of employment. So you can just go through all of this and fill it out. And specifically, if they are work from home or home office expenses, you make sure to say yes to them here under question 6 and continue to fill out the rest of the form. And of course, the employer declaration is for the employer to fill out. And if we go to the T777, I'm going to go to that form. This is where a lot of those employment expenses will show up. See, these are all have the blue square at the end, which signifies that it was calculated through ProTax from a source, and these source arrows will take you directly there. So here we can go through the T777 as well. We can calculate a bit more of the workspace in the home expenses, as well as CCA is calculated here as well. And we also have the form T777 auto. And this form is, again, if you have multiple employment expenses or motor vehicle expenses, you can add other ones. And all of your motor vehicle expenses can be calculated here, as well as CCA. Moving on to refiling, you can refile T1 returns in ProTax. However, there are some conditions that apply before doing so. So you have ProTax, and the initial return was filed online using the CRA's e-file service. The initial return was already assessed by the CRA, and you have acquired a new sign-off of a revised T183 from the client, as well as you need to be authorized as a representative through the CRA. Now, it's always important to know that before you refile or amend in other modules, is that you want to make sure that the file has already been filed and a CRA assessment has been received. And then what we want to do is I'm going to go into a return. This will just be an example. This return has not been filed, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So let's pretend this one is already filed. I'm going to hit return actions. I'm going to hit duplicate return. And now I have a duplicate just in case. So now that we have duplicated it, what you want to do is go to the info form and go under filing. We want to make sure that we say yes to amended return using T1 refile. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. Now I'm going to go to the go-to search bar and search for T1 refile. And I'm going to add that to the return, and it should open for me in a second here. Yep. I'm going to enter the date of refile. So I'll just put any date for now. There we go. Okay, so I have the date filled out. And it also asks me here if this is an amended tax return. So make sure yes is selected. And now is the time to reprint the T183 and acquire a new signature. And that signifies that the client is giving you permission to refile. This is mandatory. And as the T183 will now have a new balance or refund amount, so it'll be significantly different from the one that you sent originally. So once I've selected this, I'm going to make any of the necessary changes. Say there's a new T4 slip that came in or other expenses and you want to enter those in, you can do so now. And then what I'm going to do is select the drop-down box for e-file, and I'm going to select refile. The e-file process, or the refile process rather, is very, very similar to just the normal e-file process. You're just going to hit refile, go through the steps, and it'll be filed. I just can't because this is a test return. But yeah, it's very much so that easy to be able to refile your returns in ProTax. I would like to quickly and briefly touch on work papers in the QBOA environment, just so you can start creating your returns for T1 self-employed. So the requirement to be able to access work papers for your client is they need to be an active subscribing client in your QBO. Once you do that, you will have access to work papers for that client. So getting started, I have year-end tasks. This is basically a year-end checklist that I can edit and create and reorganize if I so choose to. And this is just to keep track of all the things that are important for a fiscal year end. I have the Documents tab where I can enter any supporting documents that are crucial to the year-end engagement. It gives me an area to basically store and organize all of my source documents. I have the Review and Adjust tab. This is to analyze my accounts and record any required entries or adjusting them. I can do so from the Review and Adjust tab. And Grouping and Statements. This is where I can create groupings for financial statement presentation. So over here, I can re-edit them, create new groups, and I can basically go off of that. The important thing to take note of is I have a button here that says Start Return in ProTax. I'm going to go ahead and click that. and it's automatically going to take me to ProTax where I can create a new T1 return. So let's go over this. I have data sources, so I can start a blank T2125 return, or I can take that work papers information that I just went through and create the return based on that. So I have the mapping. So once I select the client, which is Craig's Landscaping, this information is going to be taken into the T1 self-employed return. So any values that I can bring into the return from work papers, I can. So I'm just going to go ahead and type T2125, and I'm going to hit continue. And this is going to create my return based on my work papers information. So you see, I have my return created now. I can access the T2125 here, and I already have those values entered in. So ProTax is already doing all the hard work and calculating all those values from work papers, and it's very seamless for you to do so. Included with being able to do your self-employed return in ProTax, I'm going to go over some of the important forms that you would be using for a T1 self-employed return. So starting off, I'm going to go to the T2200 for your declarations of conditions of employment. So this is a form that can be filled out in ProTax. We also have the T777. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. I have that here. And we have a lot of worksheets for the T777 for those values to populate. So if I go to the go-to search bar and search T777, I have T777 details, auto, comparative, other. So for example, if I go to T777 auto, I have all of these motor vehicle expenses and that source code as well. I can go to the source of all of those lines, and it's going to take me where those are calculated. I have the CCA for motor vehicles here as well. Now I'm going to go over to the T776. Going to open that up for my rental income. I can enter and fill that out as well. And similarly to the T777, there are a few worksheets that are important to take note of, like asset and CCA. So if I want to calculate any CCA, I can do so here. This is where all of those values are calculated. And I also have T777 asset, or sorry, T776 asset, where I can enter my assets for the return. And that's all done right here. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for viewing this webinar for T1 Experience User Experience. If you have any further questions or would like to look at anything more specific or any videos regarding ProTax, you can do so at our YouTube page on Intuit Accountants Canada. We have playlists specifically for ProTax. Thank you so much for viewing. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Hello and welcome to our Books to Tax T1 Self-Employed webinar. I'm delighted that you could join us today. In this comprehensive tutorial, I'll guide you through the essential features of using work papers and how to start T1 self-employed returns from work papers. When you first log in, you'll land on the main dashboard. This is your central hub where you can manage all your clients' work papers. To begin, you need to select the client for whom you'd like to work on. In the top left corner of your screen, you'll see a drop-down menu. Click on this menu to view a list of clients. For this demonstration, I'll go with Craig's Landscaping. Now, let's dive into the Accountant Tools menu. To access your work papers directly, click on Accountant Tools and then select Work Papers. You'll be taken to a new interface with 4 key areas: Year-End Tasks, Documents, Review and Adjust, and Grouping and Statements. The Year-End Task tab is where you can manage and track tasks that need to be completed at the end of the fiscal year. This feature is particularly useful for creating a to-do list of items that need your attention. To create a new task, look to the lower left corner of your screen and click the plus add button. New task entry form will appear, and here you can fill in the following details: the item name, this should be a brief but descriptive title, details to provide more information about task if necessary, as well as an area to enter a link if the task involves a specific online resource, as well as the name of the link. It's important to note that not all fields are mandatory. You can simply enter the task name if that's all you need. Once you've completed the necessary fields, click on the Save button and your new task will then appear in the task list. Each task will have a status indicator that you can update. To mark a task as complete, click on the drop-down menu next to the task and select Done. If the task is still pending but in progress, you can mark it as waiting. This allows you to keep track of the task's progress effectively. If you need to make changes to a task, click on the drop-down menu next to the task name. From here, you can choose to either edit or delete the task. Editing allows you to update the task details, while deleting removes it from the list entirely. Next, let's explore the Documents tab. This area is crucial for managing all account-related source documents and other permanent files. It consolidates all your documents into one secure location, making them easily accessible. In the Documents tab, you'll see two primary sections. The General area, which is the section that allows you to create customizable folder structures for your documents. You can organize your files based on categories that are relevant to your work, such as invoices, receipts, reports, and etc. The Account area is a section that mimics your chart of accounts. It is pre-organized according to your account classifications, which helps in maintaining consistency and order. As I just mentioned, this Documents area is almost entirely customizable. You can add new folders, you can add letters, you can add documents to support your fiscal year end. You can basically use this how you need to. To be able to add a new folder, select the plus sign and add new folder. A dialog box appears like you see on screen now, and you can enter the folder's name and save. The new folder will appear in your list, and it is empty to start with. To add documents, click on the Add button. You can then browse your computer to select files for upload. As you can see now on the screen, I'm looking for some files that I can upload to this brand new folder that I just created. And it's just that easy. You can also upload multiple files at once, as well as drag and drop files directly into the folder. This feature is especially useful if you have a lot of files that you'd like to bulk upload to the folder. The system will automatically upload all selected files. So I can either select open or I can drag them right in, as you can see right now. It processes, it uploads, and now all of those files are in the folder. Now, just as another demonstration of how to use the Documents tab, I'm going to show you that I can just simply drag the file into the folder without needing to select add and then select the file and select open. I can simply just drag that file into the folder. And for example, if I uploaded a file and I don't want it to be in the folder that it's in, I want it somewhere else, I can very easily do that in the Documents tab simply by clicking and holding the 6 dots beside the file. I can drag and drop that to another folder. So if you want to move, for example, a document from invoices to reports, you can easily do so by using this feature. Let's say there's a member of my team who wants to have access to the source files that I uploaded to the Documents tab of work papers. I can simply select Download, which will download the file for me. I can also select from the drop-down button, Download, which will download the file as well. I can also rename the file as well as delete the file. If I wanted to download the entire folder, I can do so by selecting the arrow on the same line as the folder and selecting Download Folder. This will allow me to download every single file that is in the folder. If you need to create a subfolder, you can do so by clicking on Create Subfolder under your main folder. This allows you to further organize your documents. If you have files that should go in a subfolder of a main folder, this is exactly what you would need to do. If you'd like to delete a subfolder, select the down arrow of the subfolder, select Delete, and then select Yes, Delete. Another feature that you can take advantage of is marking files for carry forward. If you want to carry forward files to the next fiscal year, click on the drop-down menu of the folder and select Mark Files for Carry Forward. This will indicate that the files should be included in next year's work papers. This is very helpful, and you also have a visual icon with the purple arrow that shows you they're marked for carry forward. If you later decide not to carry forward these files, you can choose unmarked files for carry forward by selecting the down arrow of the folder again and unmarking files for carry forward. Now the Accounts area of the Documents tab mirrors your chart of accounts with folders automatically organized according to your account classifications. This section simplifies the process of file management by aligning with your existing account structure. You can manage files in the Account area similarly to the General area. You can upload new files, drag and drop them into folders, or move files between folders as needed. You can also rename, download, or delete files from this area. So in this demonstration, I'm going to show you really quickly. If I select Add, and I select the file that I'd like to upload, I'll select the file, and then I will select Open. This will bring the file over into the folder, similarly to the General area. So I have it uploaded, and now it is in the folder that is titled Cache. Now I have the same download button, and I can also use the drop-down menu to download, rename, or delete, exactly the same as the General area. And just like in the General section of the Documents tab, I can select the drop-down menu, and I can select Download Folder, or I can also select Mark Files for Carry Forward, which again signifies that they should be carried forward to next year. Now let's move on to the Review and Adjust tab. This area is designed for reviewing trial balances, recording and adjusting journal entries, and adding any necessary conversion notes or documents. A great feature that you can use when using the Review and Adjust tab is exporting as Excel. To export your trial balance, click on Export as Excel. This will generate an Excel file that you can save and open on your computer for further analysis. If you prefer to print your trial balance, use the print icon instead. You can reorder the columns of your trial balance by clicking on the gear icon. This allows you to customize how your data is displayed, making it easier to review and to analyze. You can also toggle between different views of the trial balance using the toggle switch. This feature provides a more detailed view and helps identify any discrepancies. If you're viewing your trial balance and you notice that adjustments are needed, you can click on Adjust. You can add notes or attach documents related to the adjustments by using the drop-down menu and selecting Add Note or Manage Attachments and Links. Once you select Manage Attachments and Links, you will get a dialog box that opens up where you can select Upload, which will allow you to upload any files needed for your trial balance. It's also similar in the default trial view. You can make an adjustment, or you can select the drop-down box to make adjustment or manage attachment and links. If you'd like to add a note to an account, just to let anybody in your firm know about something or just for your own personal knowledge, you can select the plus note icon beside the account, or additionally, you can select the drop-down box of that account and select Add Note. With the note dialog box open, you can go ahead and start typing your note. And once you're done typing your note, all you need to do is select Post, and that note will be linked to that account. And anyone with access to the work papers can now see your note. You can mark accounts in your trial balance either as prepared, or you can mark them as reviewed. If marked as prepared, you will get a green check mark, and if marked as reviewed, you will get a blue check mark. If you hover over the check mark, you'll be able to see who it was prepared or reviewed by, and the date of which the prepare or the review took place. Let's now turn our attention to the Grouping and Statement tab. This tab allows you to create lead sheets, group accounts, and summarize information for financial statement presentation. To create a new group, click on the plus Create a New Group blue hyperlink, and a form will appear. Here, you can enter the group name, and if applicable, the reference code. Click Save to create the group. You can export your financial statement presentation by selecting Export as Excel. This will generate an Excel file of the financial statements, which you can then review or share as needed. To reorder columns in the grouping statement, click on the gear icon and adjust the layout to your preference. If you need to update a group, click on Update. You can also add attachments and notes for other users to review. Click on the respective buttons to upload files or to add comments. You can also add notes by selecting the plus note icon beside the group, which will open a dialog box for you to be able to type any notes you need, as well as using the drop down of the group to be able to add note, attachment, or ungroup. Finally, let's explore the Income Tax tab. This is where your financial statements and your work papers information and your T1 self-employed or T2 corporate returns start to come together. This is especially useful if you want to take your Giphy information, for example, and put it into a T2 return. You can automatically do that once everything is mapped to a specific tax line or Giphy code. If you notice any missing mappings or errors, you'll receive a notification. To assign a tax line, click on the blue Assign Tax Line button. A window will pop up, allowing you to choose which tax line you want the amount to be mapped to. There are many different Giphy codes that you can use if mapping, so make sure that you're selecting the correct one, and the CRA has a bunch of great resources that will assist you in finding the correct one. Once you're done, go ahead and select Save, and that line will be mapped. If you notice that there is a tax line with an incorrect Giphy code, so for example, the Scotiabank loan, if I notice that there's something wrong with it, what I can do is select the drop down beside the tax line and press the pencil icon. Once I select the pencil icon, I'll have the dialog box open once again, and I can change that account from one line to another. So I can change it to another line that I know it belongs on, or I can even select not mapped to have it completely unmapped for later if I want to put it somewhere else. So with all that mapping, all those Giphy code mapping, that is specifically for T2 corporate returns. So all of these Giphy codes would go to either the S100 or S125 automatically when you start your return from your work papers information. If I scroll up to tax mapping and under select a tax form, I select T2125 self-employed, I can also map these as well and carry them over to the relevant forms in the T2125. Once I select assign tax line, similarly to how I just showed you with the T2 corporate, I can map these lines as well. They're not going to be Giphy codes because Giphy codes are exclusive to T2s, but you can still map them here. And if we scroll up a bit, under books to tax actions, I can either carry forward to previous years, income tax and tax lines. I can export a CSV file of the information under income tax. I can download work papers pack, or once I'm comfortable and confident with everything, I can lock the books. Once I'm ready to start a return based on my work papers information for my T1 self-employed return, what I can do is select Start Return in ProTax. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it's going to automatically take me to the return creation screen in ProTax. So here I have the tax year, the client, and I can name the return Craig's T1 self-employed. And I have two options. Normally you can start a blank return, but because this client has work paper information and T2125 lines mapped, I can take this information right into ProTax directly from work papers. So once you finish working through your books of tax, your financial statements, and then you map your financial statements, you can come here and you can create the return based on that work papers information. I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everybody for viewing this webinar. I hope the information presented was helpful. I would recommend that you keep on a lookout for any future webinars that can help you prepare your returns more efficiently. Thank you very much.